Hello friends, my name is RagePanda1 and today we're finally going to do the build guide for the Kojiki clan. This one took a little bit extra time, both for art and so that we could make sure that the clan works the way we think they work, and if we could try to make the male any good, because his kit kinda sucks. Starting with the female, she enters the battle with 6 neutral orbs. These orbs never go away. All of the other orbs that you make, they get consumed when they get used, and oddly, some of them appear to stay on the battlefield after her ult, which doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know if it's not using the orbs or what it's doing, but it almost doesn't matter because she's doing crazy damage, and the orbs are the entire reason why that's happening. So whenever an ally or an enemy casts a skill, let's remember that a skill is an active skill or an ultimate skill, you will summon an amplifier orb at their location, and for every amplifier orb summoned, the champion restores 40 energy and gains a permanent shield with a health equal to 1.5% of her max constitution. This shield actually can be pretty significant, and the energy gain is also pretty significant, although it kind of is good and not good, like you ult, but also because you're ulting faster, there's less orbs on the ground, so the ult isn't as strong. It's fine, like it doesn't make much of a difference, except that by ulting faster, you stand a chance to reduce the enemy's energy, or perhaps kill somebody before they get a chance to ult, so I guess it's a net benefit, but it's just a weird interaction to me. The most important thing about this passive is that we need to have her on a team where there are people who are doing an excessive amount of skills, not just the normal standard 1 active, 1 ult, 1 active, 1 ult. That's not going to be enough to get the most out of her. You want people who are going to be doing extra active skills during their ultimate, or maybe like a female Shayun or a male Bloom, where they summon a bunch of copies of themselves that are going to be doing active skills too. Those are also going to drop orbs, and you're going to get a lot more orbs and a lot more damage by doing that. Personally, I run her with female Shayun, and it's been a very good combination, and I use that on my second team. I kind of think that this clan, neither one of them belongs on a first team. There's just always better options, but I'll go over that more when I'm talking about the male. For the active skill, this entices us to want to have the enemies grouped up as much as possible so that we're hitting as many enemies as we can, and we want our allies grouped up in there too, because then we're going to get extra amplifier orbs. We're going to restore extra energy to the team, sort of a replacement for focused. If that's a thing you really loved in the past, then this character is somebody you should keep an eye on. Just be aware she's got a bit of an interesting interaction with Bulko, where her energy gain is basically turned off for the first 10 seconds. It doesn't matter. You were going to be full energy anyway, but since everybody's casting all their extra skills, when she does do an ult, it's going to be a big ult, and she's going to come out swinging after Bulko, which sort of negates the effect as long as you can survive with your whole team through that first 10 seconds. So even though the numbers look low on this, it's actually a very good skill, and it does a lot, especially if you can get everybody grouped up and hit as many people as possible, including your allies, with the skill. For her ultimate, the Surge of Hurricane, she awakens all of the orbs. Each of them randomly applies one of the following effects. Either it can restore energy to an ally and reduce their control effect duration. That is amazing. Making it so your team doesn't get crowd controlled as much is pretty huge. She's kind of countering all of the changes they've been making to the game. They've been introducing all of this crazy crowd control that you can't hardly deal with because it's way too much. She helps with that. They nerfed focused into the ground. She helps with that. So if you like the way the game used to be, she's definitely going to be a good pickup for you. So you can reduce it up to a total of 60%, and that lasts for 6 seconds. Very strong ability. But what I personally prefer, and I think everybody else would too, is when these orbs decide to hit the enemy, and they're going to deal damage equal to 160% of the caster's strength and drain 40 energy. This gets crazy when you have a lot of orbs. It says 160%, sure, but if you're going after Bulko is done and you got 15 or 20 orbs and you get lucky on your gamble and you're hitting them with a considerable amount of these orbs, you're doing a lot of damage that seeks out the enemy. There's nothing they can do about it, and you could potentially be completely draining their energy bar, maybe even stopping their male water and sun from casting, even if you don't kill them outright. In my experience, I have been using her a lot and testing her a lot because I went and made her 15 star just to get the mask. What a mistake. She is capable of doing as much damage as a male water and sun. Incredible. But when she doesn't, you're gonna look at that and you're gonna say, oh, she just sucks. She didn't do anything this time. Wrong. That's not what that means. That means that her ult, you got the gamble where you gave energy and crowd control reduction to your team. Giving all that energy to your team is still really good. It's not bad. Instead of her doing all the extra damage, all of the other people around her did extra damage, and because of that, her bar is gonna look smaller in comparison, and her damage doesn't matter. She still was effective. Don't be thrown off by that. It's very easy to be confused, but you really just need to understand that she's doing something really good either way. But when she picks damage, ooh, Woo child, it's a lot of damage. The traits that I've gone for here are going to be aggressive, fierce, brutal, and energetic. And yes, I think you should stick with energetic over honorable, basically exclusively on this character. You're going to be increasing the amount of a bonus shield that you're getting all the time, and it's a lot. It stacks up to her entire health bar pretty quickly. You want that increase, not just so that she's stronger at taking big ultimates, but so that she's gaining more health over time, which honorable is not helping her do. And people keep talking about their diminishing returns with honorable, which almost nobody has as a concern right now. It is possible that you could get to that point where it's not as good. Energetic is just the way to go on her. Just do it. As far as aggressive and fierce though, this character does do a lot of damage, except for when she doesn't. She's always a support character. And that means that if you want to give up a little bit of the risk on this character, you're giving up a little bit of the shiny reward at the end of that gamble of doing a crazy amount of damage. You can put support traits on her, like team buffing traits, hulking and sanguine would be fine, rapid shots, impair, that sort of thing. You could also, if you wanted to, be a little cheeky, get a little extra energy for Male Water and Sun, mess up the enemy team and not let them play as much. You could put Fearsome on her to get a bunch of stuns. Remember, her ult is doing so many instances of damage, it's crazy. You might do 12 or 15 instances of damage with one ultimate. You're basically guaranteed to get some stuns going on in there, not to mention all of the other attacks throughout time, and she has an attack that hits everybody if you're grouping them up, and hits more than once. So Fearsome could be really good there, and you could even take it further by putting Hexproof, although silences don't help with Male Water and Sun. So is she worth summoning? She's probably not going to go on your first team. That's just the way it is. The Kojiki clan in general, both of them, not really first team material. There's just usually better options, and that's just the way it is. You could make her work on your first team, but that doesn't make her the best option. She's not terrible. If you have nothing else, then absolutely you should summon for your first team. Are they worth summoning at all? I actually think that they are. If you would have asked me right when they came out, I might have said skip. In fact, I think I did say skip, or I was considering skipping, but I think that they provide enough value that they are worth summoning, but you gotta be careful with that male, so let's talk about that. For the male's passive, he will randomly link to an allied champion and the back row is prioritized. What this means is that if you put him in the back row with one other champion, he will connect to that champion. That's what's gonna happen, and if that champion happens to be a melee character and they run forward, he will stay connected to them. So you can decide where you want that to go, and that's fine. As long as this link exists, both champions have their attack speed increased by 30% and damage dealt increased by 25%. Most people who are getting excited about this guy are getting excited about two things. His active skill does a silence and a damage increase, and this passive does a damage increase, but hopefully I'll be able to make you understand why that doesn't make him first team material, but possibly second or third team he could fit on if you're building it right. If you put him on just a random team, he sucks. Absolute terrible garbage, sucks. But if you maximize him, he can be okay. Personally, I don't think he's worth the investment, but some people are really excited about him, so let's talk about why that might be. The first reason why I think he kind of sucks, the people who are trying to use this guy are people at the end of the game with everything maxed out, vigor, sprites, champion levels, all of this stuff, all maxed out. They got a ton of celestial bonds, they got huge massive runes, and they have a bunch of masks. And with a bunch of masks comes a bunch of attack speed, and also with all that other stuff. And what that means is that you're overcapped on attack speed. When you hit the soft cap, you start to just get diminishing returns really quickly, and adding in this 30% at that end of the game level is going to do nothing. And if you're at an early game level, it's a little bit nice, and you could maybe do something cool with it. But if you're looking for long term, this buff actually just kind of shuts off after a while. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And giving himself the increased attack speed, already not that good because his ultimate is a channeled skill that takes a lot of time, so you're losing basic attacks anyway, and all you've done by having this buff is to make up for the ones that you're losing anyway. So not great. As for the damage dealt increase, if you're running a team where you have exactly one character doing damage, then you are just making a mistake, because as soon as that champion dies, you're probably one of the people who refuses to run defensive traits on your big champion that you want to do a lot of damage, and then they die and you have nobody who can do anything, and this guy is not going to do damage for you. It's not going to happen. So that's not great. Also, doing this 25%, we'll jump around a little bit here. We can also see we have 20% if somebody is in this circle, which if you're in the back row with another caster or marksman, they'll probably be in your circle. Even if you're increasing your big damage character, if you're increasing their damage by 25% for the whole match, and then occasionally you're getting this 20% boost, maybe you're getting one other damage champion in there as well, you still haven't made up the damage of just having another damage champion. You haven't done that. So the fact that he adds in this damage, it's a little bit of a buffer for how little damage he does, but it doesn't make up for it. So people are confused about that part. They're thinking, this is making all my dudes do a bunch more damage, so that must be great. It's not really like that, especially if this buff doesn't land in the window where people are using skills, it's useless. The passive one was much better because it does more damage increase and it's for all time. This one is a temporary one where you can miss the buff and then it's just bad. He's not going to make up for if you just had a male Akuna on the team who's blowing people up. He's not going to make up for the damage that a male Water and Sun would be doing, even if you have him attached to one of those characters that's doing a lot of damage. So picking a damage character outright is just going to be better than these damage buffs. So the attack speed sucks. It doesn't do anything. This damage buff sucks. It doesn't make up for him just being there. And we'll get back to the rest of this passive after we talk about the rest of the active skill and start getting into the ultimate, because that's when it matters. So this active skill then, I'll tell you, spoiler alert, the ultimate sucks. It's absolutely terrible for many reasons, and I can't believe that people are saying that it's good. It's weird. This 5-second silence that he's doing on his active skill, that's in a pretty decent area. It's 2 big circles. If you're grouping up the enemies and you're getting them all in that, that's pretty huge, especially if you already have Bulko and you happen to get this to go off at a time where it extends Bulko for another 3 to 5 seconds, then he's doing something huge for your team. And if you don't have Bulko and the enemy does, if you get them all in it, he's making up for that pretty considerably, and he can help your team survive by doing that. That can be really good. The other thing that's really good about the silence is that one of them is placed on you, and if you have him in the backline, which you should because you're trying to direct who he connects to, then when you get those annoying champions that dive the backline to try to kill your male Water and Sun, he can do something to protect them by silencing them, and then the ultimate kinda comes into play to help with that a little bit, but it is so minor, it's not even really worth mentioning, but that's my job, so I will. So the damage from this character, even from the active skill, not good. It's not really going to make a difference on the meters at all. The bonuses you're getting from the damage boosts, if you're making a good normal team, he doesn't really fit for that. He's not doing the thing. But if you're on a second or third team where you need to do some area crowd control, you need different champions than are on your first team, maybe you got a Bloodcraft legend you want to put in here who's going to be a big old level 700 with all this other crazy stuff, and you just need to buff them up so that they're doing as much as they can possibly do, well, yeah, he can kind of be good for that. To be fair, he can kind of be good for that, but it doesn't make it a good team or the best team, and he certainly, in my opinion, does not belong on a first team. But the silence is good. I hope I've hammered that point home enough that you're on the same page with me. To the ultimate, he casts a spell continuously, restoring the champion's constitution by 60% of their max constitution for 4 seconds. This is worded badly. What it actually means is he restores his constitution by 60%, and it takes 4 seconds for that 60% to actually show up. So he's healing himself for 15% total health per second for 4 seconds. This recovery effect is true healing, which means that it does not suffer from anti-heal. That's pretty cool. But if he's standing next to somebody like a male Soul Keeper, he still doesn't get to heal. I'm glad that they actually wrote it out on this one and explained how the true healing is going to work. We were talking about that a little bit with female Water and Sun, and now we know the rest of the story. While he's channeling, the champion becomes immune to control effects, and the damage taken is reduced by 40%. If the enemy has somebody like the male Akuna, your control immunity didn't matter. Secondly, it doesn't matter if you get stunned out of this because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't heal for enough. It heals him a little bit, and he reduces his damage taken by 40%. But like I said, it's mostly endgame people that are talking about using this guy. They're the same people talking about how Honorable's not worth putting on anymore because damage reduction has too much of a diminishing return. So why would I care that he's getting damage reduction here? The only way that this is good is if it's on underpowered team that doesn't have things that are maxed out. You're not overcapping attack speed. You're not overcapping your damage reduction, and you have some huge character that you're putting onto a second team that you're buffing up, then he's kind of good. That's it. That's the only time, and you still have to be grouping up enemies to make that good. But let's talk about the healing that happens to the person that you are attached to, because that's the rest of the passive. When this character is healing, 35% of that healing amount will go to the linked champion. But this recovery effect is normal healing. It can be reduced by anti-heal, and it will. It basically heals for nothing. When we're talking about 35% of his healing, he's doing 15% per second. So now, instead, you're getting roughly 5% of this guy's health per second that can be reduced by anti-heal back as a heal. At best, it's 20%. And that's just not good. That's an ultimate skill. That is female AS and heal bad. It's just not good. It's not reliable. It's not going to save your life. The only thing that's going to save your life if you put him next to somebody in the backline is the fact that he's doing the silence. The heal is worthless. Attack speed, worthless. Damage that he's boosting doesn't make up for itself. His ultimate sucks, and it doesn't do anything because his damage reduction can overcap, and then that doesn't do anything. The heal is not enough, and it only heals him and his linked target, and the linked target's heal is even worse than his. Everything about this guy is really bad except for the one situation that I have come up with where I think he might be somewhat viable. So don't be summoning for this guy, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. opinion. Maybe you're a top player and you're super creative and you're mad that I said so. Go ahead and fight me about it in the comments. Do what you gotta do. But I don't think this guy is super good. So if you're summoning the clan, this is one of the few times where I would say the female is just pretty much strictly better on basically any team, except for the one specific scenario. But because he's buffing everybody else and he doesn't really do anything himself in terms of damage, you don't really care that much about having strength buffs on him. That opens up spaces for team traits, which can be pretty good. But you definitely want energetic on this guy because his heal is based on a percentage of his max health, and if you're gonna use the guy, you may as well maximize his skills. That's just what I believe. That's how I feel about the situation. He does have his circle that's doing damage per second in an area. I don't think that's enough to make fearsome or hexproof really good on him, although you might get some use out of obliteration on this character, which is normally not the case because normally that would go on DPS champions, and you don't want to give up their DPS slots for something like obliteration. You want to give up one of those slots for a defensive trait. This guy can already take both honorable and energetic and be pretty happy about it. But he's also a really good option for just chucking on steadfast instead of honorable, but only if you're close to overcapping on your damage reduction. Otherwise, don't even consider it. And then of course there's some potential interesting interactions with Ritual of Wind, which is their clan trait. When an allied champion dies, the champion's strength is increased by 15% for 4 seconds, stacks up to 2 layers. Look, if this was a permanent buff, it might be useful, but you'd have to come up with a pretty janky team to get any benefit out of this, and it's probably never going to be actually worth it. It's just not very good. So I certainly wouldn't summon them for that. The reason that I would summon this clan is you're looking to build a second team. It's time to move up the Conquest of Sakkad sort of situations, maybe some Luxus tournament action. And the other reason is maybe you just really need some fodder. The female Kojiki is a lot better than a lot of old champions, and she does open up some new playstyles, so I think that that's pretty valuable, but this is a skippable clan. If you're looking for saving some stones, this might be the time to do it. So once again, the art that is behind me was done by myself and Teelanim, and Teelanim is part of the Bloodline community on the official Discord. She also has a Twitter account, which I'm going to link in the description below, and you should definitely do the Twitter thing, and you follow and like the things that you're seeing, thumbs up. How do you tweet? I don't know how to tweet. I am not a Twitter, it turns out. So sorry this one took a little while to come out. I just wanted to try to squeeze out as much value from these characters as I could before I told you to just straight up skip them, and to be fair, they didn't give us a lot of time to make first look guides. Since they released the clan the same day they released all of their abilities to us. So what are you gonna do? For now, I want to thank you for watching. I have been RagePanda1, and I will see you in the next one.